All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Vibrant Hawaii Resilience Leadership Academy. My name is Ashley Kirkwitz, and I am chair of the economy stream. Today is the first of a four-part series that we are kicking off to empower community with tools to take action. Today's theme is focused around external communication and community relations, and we've invited some local influencers to share their mana'o with you. So as we do with our Vibrant Hawaii meetings, in order to really ground ourselves and set the intention for the work that will be doing together, we begin by reading our grounding statement. So I'll call on a number of you to help assist with that. Kahana, can you kick us off? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? Vibrant Hawaii is a growing community that commits to individual and collective auomo kuleana to increase equitable opportunities to build wealth, an abundant reservoir of human, social, natural, and financial capital that we contribute to and draw upon.
Thank you. Nina?
Our kuleana is to convene conversations so that all wa'a can travel toward a common goal, build community awareness, will, and action from the foundation of our shared values, shift deficit narratives, systems, and policy that perpetuate poverty and inequality, and implement strategies that are developed and resourced by the community and reflect Native intelligence.
Thank you. Ahia?
We value equity and belonging and demonstrate this by being willing to let go of our assumptions and biases about each other, speaking up when we recognize barriers that prevent us from participating, prospering, and reaching our full potential, promoting full family engagement and participation, and raising our own and our collective belief that wealth, abundance, and prosperity is not a pie. More for others does not mean less for ourselves.
Awesome, thank you. Ross?
We value aloha, and we demonstrate this by acknowledging that aloha is unique to Hawaii. It is from this place. By valuing aloha, we value the vast and unique genius of the people of Hawaii, and we prioritize the knowledge, skills, and solutions of its people, recognizing that aloha is an action modeled to us by our environment, and we validate its aloha through aloha aina and our willingness to suffer a little so that no one has to suffer a lot.
Thank you. Kavehi?
We value auomo kuleana, and we demonstrate this by a commitment to empowerment rooted in our belief that everyone has skills and abilities, but needs circumstances and opportunities to express them, promoting language that recognizes a person's abilities and shared ownership and accountability. If any one of us stumbles, we all fall because we are all connected.
Thank you. Ross?
Oh, maybe go twice. Oh yeah, we value flexibility and learning that leads to transformation, and we demonstrate this by being honest without shame when we don't know, being courageous, adaptive leaders, even when it calls for difficult conversations, and even when our outcomes look like failure, demonstrating a ho'onui and ahaha as we hold attention to achieve change and practice makavalu, and acknowledging that we each hold one piece that is a part of something bigger.
Thank you. All right, at this time, go ahead and open up the chat feature on your computer. I want to do a one-word check-in with everyone. Let us know in one word how you're doing this morning. All right, we've got some people feeling excited, stoked, light-filled, wonderful, fab, amazing, grateful, anticipatory, chilly, maka'ai, happy, great, pumped. All right, keep it coming, folks. Love seeing how you are doing this morning. Awesome. Great. Lots of folks feeling really grateful and thankful today. Thank you so much for joining us and checking in with each other. All right, we'll go ahead and get started with today. Wanted to kick off by providing an overview of the Resilience Leadership Academy. This was really focused on building up the individual capacity and our community network so that when disasters strike, and we've faced so much, we've faced eruptions and tsunamis and hurricanes and floods, and even a global pandemic, we want to make sure that our community is empowered to be able to take action and is ready for anything. Primarily the Resilience Leadership Academy was something that we had created for our Resilience Hub network. We have over 20 hubs around Hawaii Island that have just launched this week to provide support for COVID, but also to advance a suite of economic development initiatives. We wanted to make sure that we are being equitable and helping all folks outside of the network. So this particular events series is free and open to folks in the community. And so if you have friends that weren't able to make it today, no problem. Let them know if they go to vibranthawaii.org/get-involved, they can sign up to be part of this leadership series. Today is the first of 4 workshops that we have planned over the next few months. We will be meeting on second Thursdays between 9 to 12 p.m. Today we'll be talking about external communication and community relations. In March, the focus will be team building and internal communication. April, volunteer management and recognition, and then we'll wrap it up in May with disaster preparedness and response. We really hope that you show up for each of these events and actively participate and contribute. At the end of each of these workshops, we will be providing an evaluation and encouraging peer-to-peer connection. And it's all of the mana'o that you are going to be sharing as a group, applying the learning, talking about your experiences. It's those experiences, those reflections that will be shared with Vibrant Hawaii that will help us further refine this leadership series so that we can serve more folks in the community and empower them with this information and these tools. So here's a brief overview of what we will be accomplishing today. I'll be going over some basics for communication and community advocacy, inviting local influencers to speak about creating an effective social media presence, motivating community stakeholders to take action, and storytelling with the power of visuals. We'll do a quick 5-minute break at around 11 a.m. And then when we come back, hopefully everybody's going to be able to turn their cameras on. We will put you out into learning cohort pods for about 35 minutes, a breakout session. We have some Jamboards with some prompt questions based on today's presentations that we want you to reflect on. After the 35 minutes is up, we'll all come back, report back and share with one another, take the evaluation, do our one-word checkout, and get you out of here by noon. Any questions about the agenda? Let me see some emojis. You guys good? You ready to roll? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, before my current capacity as a council member, I worked for Hastings and Pleadwell, a communication company, for nearly 10 years, where I was able to help a number of clients statewide. Local government, state government, various nonprofits, a number of businesses in the renewable energy sector. So do have some experience in helping organizations and campaigns tell their story, build up, cadres of ambassadors, and really share that message to really get folks to take action and make sure that it resonates. So a lot of what I am going to be sharing with you is very broad brush, high level, but it is coming with nearly a decade of tried and true experience right here in our community. So I feel really honored to be able to share this with you. Why do we communicate? We communicate so that we can connect with one another, inform audiences, and influence stakeholders. With communication, we are able to create a very common understanding around a project or initiative and really get folks to commit behind that. With communicating, we are sharing our purpose, and in doing so, we're able to foster goodwill, build up community coalitions, and accomplish our goals as an organization. Some benefits to communication. You build trust within your team and within your community. It provides clarity and direction for where you're trying to go and what you're trying to achieve. Communication also helps to build up relationships and strategic alliances. It's so important to communicate in order to prevent and resolve issues. So often things go amiss or awry because there was a lack of communication. I'm the type that likes to over communicate just so that folks know, where we stand. And that way it just prevents any bad feelings or miscommunications, misinterpretations. Communication's also the foundation for building up loyalty and commitment behind a cause. It has the ability to really boost a morale and team because everybody knows what they are on board for, fighting for together as a team. Communication also helps to increase engagement both internally and externally. And when you think about it, communication, information, it really is empowering. People love to be in the know. So keep that in mind as you begin to craft ways in which you'll be communicating out to your audiences. All right, finding your voice. This is something that you as an individual and as an organization really need to hone in on. We don't like corporate speak. We want you to find that really authentic personality. What would your brand organization sound like if it was having a conversation, say at a beach barbecue, or at a school play, or at a soccer game, or at a nightclub or dinner, or at a theater? Find your voice, make sure you are communicating in an authentic way. That way you're able to build up trust with community, and they know who you are. That's really important. One core facet of communication for your organization is to ensure you have your core values down. Your core values are really the foundation for your communication pieces. They also are that North Star, your compass. So if you are veering off course, it's always good to go back and reflect on your values as an organization or an individual and pivot, recalibrate course so that you are on track to achieve your mission. There's also a value proposition here with what you are providing, with your communication. How are you attracting folks? What are you saying and doing to give people a reason to care and to really be invested in what you're trying to achieve? So be clear on what your core values are. I'm the type of person that really likes to have a plan. So you could have a business plan, you could have a communication strategy that can be, chapters and chapters long. But this right here that you see on your screen is a really simple tool to help you kind of plan out your communications as an organization. It's called an editorial calendar. And if you're interested, you can let us know in the evaluation and we can provide you with a tool. But this is something that I've used for a number of years, professionally, even personally, to just map out the kinds of messages I want to share. And so it's based on a number of events that are happening nationally or locally. You could also list holidays here, different milestones that you have for yourself or your organization. And then I begin to color code things based on the communication tool that I'm using. So if I'm doing something for social media, for instance, it'd be one color. If I'm sending out an email, it'd be another color. If I'm sending out a mailer or a press release, it'd be another color. Doing something like this on a monthly basis is really helpful because I work on a number of projects and I have a number of team members that want to be able to contribute. And so when they see our communication goals laid out in a plan like this, folks know where they can help fill in the gaps and take the lead on things. So this is a really helpful tool, an editorial calendar. All right, when building your message, so important to keep it really simple. So vital. You want it to be clear and simple and memorable, and get rid of all that jargon. Don't use 11 words when 6 will do, and ensure that you are using really common language that's so simple to understand. Your grandma will understand it. Your 4th grader will understand it. You just want there to be simplicity and clarity in your message. And in developing your message, good for your team to develop a suite of talking points. You want everybody on your team to really know what they're talking about. So if there are questions that are being asked, they can answer with confidence. And building upon those talking points, know your audience, know who you're talking to. If you are talking to a group of kupuna, that may be one particular message versus a message you are delivering to keiki or to business leaders or policymakers in our community. Having your message, having your suite of talking points will allow you to create variations of that message based on the situation. But you need to have that really crisp, tight suite of messaging that is sort of the baseline in which you can springboard off of and share and articulate to various audiences. All right, content development. I like to work smart, not hard. And so if I'm going to spend a ton of time, say, creating a blog post or writing a newsletter, I want to make sure I'm maximizing the mileage on that baby. And so I will take that information and see, is there a social media post that I can create? Is there a quick little video that I can create? Is there some type of collateral piece, say a brochure or a flyer or a postcard that I can be generating with that piece of information? So do think about when you are developing your content, how you can take that further and share it across the various platforms that you may have. That may be email, that may be your website, that may be social media. You may be wanting to promote something that's happening to the community at large via a press release. And so find ways in which to repurpose that information so it can go far across all of the channels you are on. These are a number of communication tools that I've leveraged in my time. The first, listing of tools are more so the traditional mediums. So the press releases where you are sending out, a media release to various outlets such as newspapers, radio station, TV stations to let them know something important is happening in the community and it warrants media coverage. Other traditional tools I've used are creating flyers, which are incredibly helpful, especially now within COVID. Wanting to get the word out about things, flyers are very helpful because not every community on Hawaii Island has access to connectivity. Either they're lacking internet or they don't have the device to access internet. And we want to make sure they are able to access information. And so putting up flyers at your local library or grocery store or gas station are really helpful tools to get out information. If you have a budget, mailers are also very effective and helpful in getting your message out. And I say that because people don't typically get mail these days. And so if you are able to create something really compelling that stands out from, the normal bills that we may be receiving, I think people will be really interested to open up that piece. Other traditional tools include brochures and handbills. Also phone calls. I think that's a lost craft, is picking up the phone and calling folks and sort of advocating for your program or your issue or something that you're trying to do in community. Another medium is TV. And, it's, if you have a really compelling story, it's very possible that our local TV outlets will pick that up, but you've got to have a good pitch. And finally, another medium that kind of helps to reinforce messages is radio. Some of the more, I would say, I don't know if I want to use the word modern, but like more rapidly distributed communication tools are email. But these are mediums that are oversaturated. And so if you're going to be leveraging them, it's so important to ensure you have that crisp, clear message that you are able to communicate out. But there's email campaigns that you can be doing, engaging folks on social media, such as Facebook and Instagram. We don't have the highest Twitter usage here in Hawaii, so it's not the most I think the best use of your time if you're going to be investing in social media. But it is an option if you think that if there is a particular audience that you're trying to reach with that. Video is also something that you can be leveraging, and with our smartphones and tablets, it's so easy to hit record, throw some filters on there, or even use free things like iMovie to put something real quick together and have something polished to share. Text notifications are also another great and pretty cost-effective way to reach audiences and communicate. Having a website presence is kind of a no-brainer these days. I mean, whenever people want to know something, what do? They Google. And so you miss an opportunity if you don't have a website. You can create something off of Wix or Squarespace. They have, free tools, but also pretty low cost if you feel like investing, which I think you should. It's a small investment to make in order to reach folks, not just locally, but really when you're on the web, your reach is global. And finally, another tool is the tool that we're using today, Zoom. We have the ability to connect with each other no matter where we are in the world, and host these sort of informational events. So this is another great way to engage community and communicate. All right, with advocacy, you have to know that you can't go it alone. And with advocacy, you're really building up relations to establish pipelines to share that information. And with advocacy, the success is really dependent on building the momentum up within various sectors and getting all of those sectors to feel a real shared sense of ownership in the mission and what you're trying to achieve. I have to say, this does take a lot of work. Relationships are going to require ongoing communication, consistent energy, but I really feel that here in Hawaii, especially Hawaii Island, we are able to get so much done because we have a really strong social capital network. Our folks have strong relationships with one another and are willing to bend over backwards to help and support. So ensure that if you're going to be advocating for an issue or support for your program or whatever it is, make sure that you and your team are spending time to really invest in building up those relationships. Just a couple more slides here, guys. Finally, know your community. Spend time with your local policymakers, your council member, your mayor, your state representative. We just had local boy Kai Kahele go to Congress and he's super accessible, but know the people that are in charge of making policies and laws that affect your everyday life. It's so important that you are sharing with them your experiences, because it's within that sharing, they feel empowered to know what's happening within community and can make the best and most responsible decisions for the constituency. Also figure out who the, excuse me, who the grass tops are in your community, the various community leaders. If you don't know them, reach out and get to know them. Social distance coffee or kombucha, or you could do something over Zoom if they're comfortable, but do spend time cultivating that relationship, because grass tops often have a wide network out into community. Get to know the local businesses in your community. Now more than ever, we have to do everything we can to save and support small business. Develop that relationship and see if there are ways that you can collaborate with them to advance shared goals. Reach out to various civic and community groups within your community. You've got Zonta clubs, exchange clubs, Rotary clubs, Sierra clubs, whatever the mission is of your hub or your organization. Hone in on that and find the intersections with various civic and community groups and see if there are potential spaces to collaborate. And finally, know the faith-based institutions in your community, and they are an incredible force that shows up year-round to be a support. So do get to know the local faith leaders in your community. And again, like I said earlier, relationships matter, so do take the time to invest in cultivating them. Before you approach these folks, just do a little research on them. Find out if there are common areas of interest. If you're up on the news, do a quick Google search to see, did they author an op-ed or a letter to the editor? Was there a recent article about them in the Tribune Herald? When you meet with this person, you can drop that in and let them know, hey, I saw you in the paper, or that was a really great commentary. I think that makes people feel really good that what they spent time preparing to share with community has been well received and has been noticed. I always advocate for, before you walk into a conversation, not just determining what your message is going to be, but identifying who is the best messenger. Not everybody is the best messenger to deliver a message. You may know folks in your network that may have a good relationship with a grass tops leader or a policymaker. They can be the one to help advocate for the mission, and that can be their mission, to be the messenger and share that message. Finally, understand the resources and assets that anyone you are approaching has available that can be leveraged to support your hub, your economic development initiative, your organization, or a program. You don't want to walk into these things blind. You definitely want to understand what they bring to the table and how that can be leveraged. And that segues nicely into finding a pathway to partnership. If you know what you want, and what these potential partners are able to do, you will be able to foster a conversation around collaboration and shared partnership that advances their goals as well as yours. All right, finally, last slide. Just a few tips for you around how to build up your support base. Education, it's so critically important. Educate people about your Resilience Hub initiative, your economic development initiative. You know, if you're a community member with an organization or you've got a hot topic issue that you want to advocate around, be out there providing compelling reasons and data and stories around why this is important and people should care and why they should plug in. Share information about what your goals are, what your objectives are, different activities that are happening, as well as the various results and impact of your collective work. Create experiences for people to plug in. So, you know, if you are a resilience hub and you're leveraging 3D printers or Honeybee Education Program, this is a great time to have people understand what a resilience hub is and the potential around it by inviting community to come and participate. This not only builds understanding, but also lifers, supporters of your community-driven initiative. And finally, you know, we at Vibrant Hawaii, we really believe in the fact that everyone is useful and has a gift and a talent and a contribution to make. And so as you are thinking about, how do I get my hub off the ground? How do I get, you know, my new organization, my new nonprofit off of the ground? You know, what am I going to do to foster economic resilience in this sector? You know, everything's so brand new. How do I do this? Break out what you need and identify small scale, large scale things that you need in order to advance your mission. That way folks are totally aware of where they can plug in, because again, everybody wants to share. We just need to create space for them to share and feel useful. Okay, I think my time's up and I need to segue into, let's see here, calling on local entrepreneur, Kea Keolanui. She has started a number of startups here in our community. She's also owner of Hawaii Eco Farms, or Eco Tourist, sorry, and OK Farms. And she is going to be sharing with us a little bit today about how to create an effective social media presence. So I'm going to turn it over to Kea. If you do have any questions about anything that I've covered, feel free to go ahead and pop those in the chat. Kea, over to you.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Aloha, everyone. My name is Kea Keolanui. I'm the owner and manager of Hawaii Eco Experiences, also Hawaii Eco Tours, and the marketing manager of OK Farms, which is our Ohana farm. So in the past, I worked with other companies, other startups. Ola Brew is one of them, and Hawaiian Ethos is another. Full disclaimer, I did not receive any formal social media training. What I'm sharing with you today is totally based on accumulative experiences and research that I've gathered over my marketing and outreach career. So stick with me. I'm gonna put my timer on right now. We're gonna do about a 20-minute presentation and then we'll open up for Q&A. So I'm gonna share my screen. All right. So I just threw this together, so it's not very pretty. Hopefully I don't put anyone asleep, but creating an effective social media presence. So we're going to start with going over some of the channels that you can choose with social media. Today, we're going to really focus on Instagram and Facebook because in my experience, those are the most relevant living here in Hilo and on the Big Island and marketing to our audience. And so Instagram is mostly photos and videos. Facebook is photos and videos as well, but there's also a big mix of articles and blogs, a lot more of an information provider than Instagram would serve. There's also Twitter, which Ashley did mention, but again, that's not very popular here in Hawaii. It's a lot more popular in the mainland and with our former president, but TikTok is definitely a platform that's used with the younger generation, but it's kind of leaking into a lot of other areas of the other social media channels. So you may see a lot of TikTok videos on Instagram where people are dancing and have little blurbs coming up throughout the video. So definitely a lot of different channels that you can choose to go through. As far as our business, we definitely are really strong on Instagram and a little less on Facebook, which is unfortunate because there is a huge Facebook user population here on the Big Island. And so that's something that I definitely suggest investing time in, as well as with Instagram. So the first question that I want to ask, and that everyone can kind of ask yourself as we're going through this, the slides are going to have some questions, and you can kind of think about where your hub stands or where your organization stands in these different options. So what is the purpose of your social media? So whenever you start a social media, you should always ask yourself, what is the purpose? Is it education? Is it awareness, entertainment? Are you trying to sell a product? Are you trying to sell a service? Or are you just doing it for fun? And really trying to nail down what the purpose is of your social media is a really great place to start because everything else will kind of flow from there. It's almost like a pyramid. And if you have your purpose at the very top, then you can kind of flow down and figure out everything else along the way. So that's the first step that I would definitely take. The next question that I'd like to ask is, what are the goals you're looking to reach by using social media? So this is a little different than your purpose. This is a little more defined on what exactly are you trying to do? Are you trying to drive traffic to your website? And that could also filter into other areas, whether you're trying to teach people something, sell a product, have people sign up for your newsletter, have people utilize the resources on your website. You can expand your reach so people know more about you. You can increase the attendance of an event or class, encourage people to learn more about what you offer and who you are. So it's very important to really identify these goals. And if maybe you have 3 goals, or maybe you just have 1, but really making sure you pin it down to that is very important, because whatever your goal is, everything you post needs to be somewhat angled to make that goal happen without being too pushy. And so the without being too pushy part is definitely a finesse that I think you learn over time. So instead of, to give you an example, for Hawaii Eco, we are a tour company, but when the pandemic hit, of course, there were no tourists coming to Hawaii. So we took all of the seats out of our vans and we began selling produce boxes. And we kind of switched from selling a service to selling a product. And so our purpose of social media is also to educate and to provide resources for farmers, but it's also to sell a product. So instead of having every post say, hey, $25 boxes, hey, we have this that you can buy. Hey, we have that you can buy. We really make sure that our content has a good mixture of education, fun, entertainment, and many other elements that we're going to go into a little bit later as we talk about content. So choosing your content. One of the main questions is, who's your audience? Depending on the platform you're using, the audience can vary. So with Facebook on the Big Island, what we've seen is that there's an older generation using Facebook as well as a younger generation, but the percentage of people over 30 that are using social media are mostly using Facebook. And that is changing as times develop and people learn more about the different options. So that's an important point, is who's your audience. And we're gonna go more into identifying your audience a little later. And you can do that with different insights that we're gonna talk about. So post with humans and then get more traction than others. So my partner and my stepmom, Ala Keola Nui, this is our favorite and least favorite part of social media. I'm gonna kind of show some of the posts that we do a little later, and you can really see that the posts that have humans in them and that you're talking and doing a video and just people can see your face, they do much better than posts of, landscape and plants and things like that. So although it's not everyone's favorite to get up on camera, we definitely do it just to provide that resource and kind of capture people's attention to try to express the message that we need to get across. Videos, what we found at least, is that videos tend to get more traffic than photos. That's not necessarily that you get more likes. It's that people see the video, more people see the video than they do of the photo. So we do have some really beautiful photos, and I know Andrew Hara is going to be jumping on here later, and he's the man. His photos, that's a totally different story. He's a professional photographer, and he just has some really gorgeous photos. And I think he's going to talk about, how to make sure that the quality of your photos is really high and that you're providing as clear of a picture to tell your story. We also really try to make sure all the posts have a unique quality that gets people interested and thinking. As I kind of go through some of the posts later, we'll go over the different ones that got the most traction, and it was kind of interesting. So really making sure that that unique quality is there and you're not just repeating the same thing over and over. You kind of throw a wild card in there, whether it's every week or every couple of weeks, and kind of get people thinking and not expecting a post. The next, which is actually really important, this could have gone right at the top, is a call to action. So what is in it for me? We have something for you to buy, win, learn, do. And that's really important when we're talking about capturing people's attention. Humans are wired to just kind of ask the question, what is in it for me? And so also identifying in each one of your posts, do I have a call to action? Or maybe you have a call to action every 3 days or every week. However you organize your posts that are going out is up to you. But it definitely is something that I feel has increased our amount of followers and also increase the traffic in certain posts. Variation, I know I mentioned this earlier, but mixing it up, what you post, how you post it, while also keeping some consistency with style and messaging. And so your messaging, whether it's your branding, your mission, your goals, it should stay consistent through all your posts. So even if you're throwing a wild card in there, it's still in line with your brand and your identity. And so for an example, Hawaii Eco, we started it to be an agricultural tour company. And so the CSA boxes were really an addition to this, and it wasn't so far-fetched as far as you know, what we're doing and what our mission and goal and branding is. And so we always try to post about farms and agriculture, little tidbits about plants, food. And so we kind of stick to those guidelines, and really it depends what each organization is looking to promote and what your branding and your mission is. So also gauging content by looking at your insights. So this tells a lot about your audience and what you should post in the future. And so all Instagram and also Facebook, especially if you have it in a business setting, you can see your insights, which I actually took screenshots of all of our insights for Hawaii Eco, and I added them at the end of the slides. And Ashley's going to make sure these slides are available for everyone. And it's really interesting, and seeing where all of the people are coming from, what their gender is, what their ages are. And it's very helpful as far as determining what your post should be and where you should go next. So who is your audience? We were just talking about that. So insights show many details about your viewers. Again, their gender, age, city of residence. When evaluating this data and what it means, you need to ask yourself, what do you think your audience should be? And so for us, I'll just give you an example of Hawaii Eco. We're doing produce boxes in Hilo and Kona. And our Hilo audience is really strong. We have about 29% or something like that of our viewers on our Instagram are from Hilo. And then we have about 5% that are coming from Kona. And this really shows even in our numbers. We definitely don't do as well in Kona as we do in Hilo. And that's where I identified that we really need to be target marketing those Kona people and try to get them as much information and get them following us so that they can kind of understand what we offer and see if they'd be interested in our product. So again, should there be more people in Kona following us? Should we be appealing to younger generations as well? And that's something that you can look into in your insights and just see if there's mostly people 30 and above following you. Is that what you'd like? Is that beneficial to your brand? And if it's not, then how do you change it and target market a different audience? So once you decide who you'd like to better target market, to better target, we can work on doing outreach with those groups and people via social media target marketing, which this next slide, I'm going to be honest, it's totally my theory. And we, I went into Instagram, and I know that there's been this like thought that you shouldn't be following more people than are following you, and that the algorithm hurts you for that. And I really put that to the test because I think that we really wanted to outreach as much as possible. And so we began adding people in our community. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that with the target marketing. So with the target marketing, how we do it is we find organizations or hashtags that you believe may have a similar audience to you. And so whether you're a nonprofit and you think this other nonprofit does a really great job and they have similar messaging and they have a similar mission, and you follow them and you can like their posts, comment on as many of their posts as you possibly can. You can also follow their followers, which has really been beneficial for us. I think that we did numbers of we'd follow about 20 people, and by following them, we'd get about 15 people that follow us back. So although there's those 5 that maybe didn't follow you back, we're still liking and commenting on these people's posts and trying to create interaction that's really kind of driving them to want to know, who is this organization? And I need to get to know them a little better. And they're always liking my stuff. And of course, make sure that it interests you. Don't be fake. But also be supportive and have that communication with those people on social media. So once you're following, again, like, comment on as many photos and videos as you can, create posts, tag people you've been communicating with, asking people questions, doing contests, bringing up subjects that spark conversation, and encouraging exchange. A lot of the time we'll make a post that asks a question, or maybe there are two different sides and we see a comment going and we say, wow, that's really interesting. What do you think about that? And we tag someone else and we get the conversation to continue and the traffic to keep going on that post. And it really does help with the algorithm to move it forward in a direction that is kind of getting more likes and getting more comments. And so I know I just mentioned the algorithm. So I'm going to back up here and talk a little bit about the Instagram algorithm. Again, I'm not as familiar with Facebook. That's something that I need to work on myself. But as far as Instagram algorithm, you can look more into it. There's a lot of videos on YouTube, and it's good to understand how it works. And sometimes if you're not liking and commenting on other people's posts, it can actually put the posts that you put out way behind, and Instagram doesn't show them to people. And so it's a little complicated and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but it's basically a rule book that is unwritten, and they don't come out and say, this is our algorithm and this is what you need to follow. But there are some little tricks to try to kind of beat the algorithm or get on the wave that it's promoting and supporting. So collaborating is a really important part about social media. So identifying partners that have similar values to you and connecting with them to help one another. And so unlike the target marketing, this is more so you're working with another organization and communicating similar messaging that allows both of the entities to benefit. So you repost one another's posts and stories, you encourage your followers to support them, you work together to do giveaways or reach a common goal, make posts and stories and tag your collaborator. This is really helpful, and I'm gonna go into it as we look at the screenshots that I'm gonna provide from Hawaii Eco. A lot of the times where we're collaborating with other businesses, we tend to get a lot more traction on those specific posts. And so we recently did a story about Waimea Butcher Shop, and Waimea Butcher Shop, we tagged them and then they posted on their stories, and that post went really far because both organizations are pushing it on their platforms and the algorithm likes that. And so it's very important to collaborate. And even if you do it naturally and you just follow one of the organizations and you just start giving them support and lots of love, and then they give you support back, and it's a great natural way to begin collaborating. But there's also ways that you can reach out to someone and say, hey, we'd love to work with you, and you guys have similar values to us. Let's figure out how we can help one another and maybe do a giveaway or, create an online event and have a webinar. So lots of ways to collaborate. And that's it for our slides. I'm gonna kind of go into some of our screenshots really quickly here. I know we're hitting the mark of our time for Q&A, but this is just an example of some of our posts that we had. I guess that it's about a whole year of posts. And you can see, of course, the top posts are actually ones that we had really, really good pictures in a light box with a high resolution camera. And those may be doing well because other people are using them for other purposes. Because once they're on social media and your social media is public, those pictures and videos are able to be used by other people. A really interesting one here is the third photo on the top. And if anyone knows what that is, that's umeboshi. And this is a great example of posting something that has nothing to do with our business. So we harvested that umeboshi at Mauna Kea. We told the story about it. People have been following it. You can see the one of the second posts we did down the way on the lower second post to the bottom. And people are really interested, although it has nothing to do with our boxes, they're interested in the process of salt fermentation. And it's an educational piece of it. And of course, the pictures of our family, the videos that we create, those all did very well as well. This is some of our stories. You can see the post with Waimea Butcher Shop did really well. That's collaborating. A lot of these other posts I didn't even do, and I just reposted. And that really shows you the power of collaboration and the power of working together to promote what you're doing. So this is just some insights. You can see this is in the past 30 days, the accounts that we've reached, 5,000, around 5,000, content interactions. You can see the likes, comments, shares. So this is all really important, and you can find this in your insights, in your Instagram. I believe you have to be a business to look at your insights. So there's a way you can switch your Instagram to be a business instead of a personal page. You can see our reach. We're a lot more busy on Thursdays and Wednesdays. And that shows, we send our boxes out every Tuesday. And so all of the people who buy boxes are posting about it on Wednesday and Thursday, and they're posting the meals they're making. And we get a lot more traction by people reposting and tagging us. And those are our most busy days of the week. You can see the majority of our followers are women, and they go on the Instagram from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And this is, again, just a general overview of our followers. You can see the majority are coming from Hilo. I was wrong, it's 10% coming from Kona, was 5, but we've been working on that with target marketing. And follower breakdown. So you can just see how many follows and unfollows. Don't take it personal if people unfollow you. You're not for everyone, and that's fine. You can just accept that, because there are the people who will love you and there are the people who might not love it. So it's really depends. You can of course see the accounts reach and the impressions that we've made between December 13th and January 11th. The impressions are just how many people saw that post, whether it's they're scrolling through or they really looked at everything. And we're gonna stop there and open up for questions. Sorry, I ran a little long there. All right. Any questions? No?
Shelby, we can't hear you. Oh, I think Michelle has a question. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah. What do you think about putting like your brand on a photo? I guess one question is, the people using your photos in ways you may not approve of. What's your thought on that?
Well, we haven't experienced that much. Everything that we put out, we are okay with people sharing. And so that's, and if people take it and they do their own iteration of it, that's fine. It's more so if a collaborator in another organization that's you're working with and maybe they post something that's not in line with your marketing, then you might want to tell them just because you're working together. But if it's just the general public, there's not much you can do about it. And you just cross your fingers and hope that they post what's in line with your marketing and mission. Thanks. Anyone else? Does that answer your question, Michelle? Or
Yeah, there's another question, a couple questions that came into the chat. Deb's
Okay.
wanting to know, is there a way to encourage people to follow your account?
Okay, yeah. So as far as the target marketing, that's a really great way to encourage people to follow your account. So when I mentioned, okay, you're going to follow the people that are kind of following the other organizations that you're in alignment with, by doing that, you inadvertently get some followers by doing that and just being active. And that's really how to encourage people to follow you. Because if, say, someone's not following you, but you're following them and they post some pictures of plants and you're saying, wow, that's so cool, great job. They're immediately going to be interested in who you are and why you're following them. And so that's a great way to kind of encourage people to follow your organization. And also just being really active, posting, trying to post every day. I have a hard time with it, or I was a lot better a few months ago and I had more time, but really being active is another great way to encourage people to follow your organization, because the algorithm will actually pump you up if you continue to be very active on social media. So are there certain days and times of the week that you suggest when to post and when not to post? So yes, what we found is between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning, when we post, those posts tend to do really well. And between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the evening. And if you think about it, those are kind of down times where people are either, getting ready for their day or ending their day, and they may have some time at home to be scrolling through social media. And there's also a lot of information online about, when you should be posting and all of that. And so you can also look into your insights, and everyone's gonna have access to the slides that I just presented, and also all of the screenshots at the end. And those screenshots should be valuable for everyone here because we're all on the Big Island, and they're very relevant as far as the times that people are active and the days. And of course, to each organization, it's going to be different. But overall, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, if you could just answer the last couple questions in about a minute, because I need a segue to Kristin.
Yep.
Patty wants to know, what if someone posts something unkind or ugly? Do you respond, hide, leave it up? And Lauren's asking a question that I was also curious about. How much time do you devote to marketing on social media?
Okay, so what if someone posts something unkind or ugly? It depends. So is it relevant? Like one time someone posted something like, I got lettuce and it was wilted from you guys. And I actually did, I wrote back and said, I'm gonna send you a DM. And then I sent her a really nice DM, explained it, and I did delete that message because it affects your branding. And there are some that, you can let go that have questions like, I tried to pick up and, I couldn't find the place. And for that, I say, okay, well, here's how you find the place, because that's a question that others may have. And then the last question, how much time do you and your company devote to marketing? Unfortunately, we devote hours a day to it. We're taking pictures throughout the day, throughout the week. And a really important part to remember is that you don't need to use all those photos right away. I have a whole folder in my phone of photos, about 30 different photos that I've taken over the months and videos. And sometimes I'll take a 2-week break and hiatus from creating content, and I'll use those. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. And I'll definitely be available for more questions. So please, I'll put my email in the chat and feel free to shoot me any emails and ask any questions that you have. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Kea. That was excellent. All right, if everybody could show Kea some love, give her some hearts, some high fives. That was really well done. Thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to share your experiences in Mana'o with us.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, I wanted to introduce Kristin Alice. She is the Director of Community Relations with Hope Services Hawaii. Kristin is going to provide us an overview of motivating your community to take action, and she's also going to share with us some tools that she uses to get the message out. Kristin?
Hey, good morning. Thanks, Ashley. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here, and thanks, Kea, for that great presentation. Social media is definitely a force to be reckoned with, something that it's worth the payoff if you put time into it. And what I found managing social media as well is that the amount of time becomes less once you get more used to it. So yeah, great presentation. Thank you. All right, so today, as Ashley said, I'm going to talk a little bit about motivating people to join. And a lot of that intersects with the social media and with what kind of content you're putting out there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the principles of how to make a design. And then I'll give a quick tutorial on how to use Canva, which is a free design tool where anybody can be a designer. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. And I'm sharing this. So this is on Canva. So you're kind of going to get a taste of what Canva is before we go into the tutorial. This is a presentation I made on here, and we are going to present. Okay. So, Ashley mentioned this earlier when she was speaking, KISS, keep it simple, superstar. Less is more. And I feel like a lot of people, when they're just starting out, and even later on, sometimes me too, I feel like I gotta cover every single thing. Like people are gonna have questions. I gotta be super clear about this. And there's a tendency to wanna communicate every single thing, but that's not effective. And it's actually counterproductive a lot of the time, because you can overwhelm people with too much information. And then it's like, what is this even about anymore? The first principle that I want to share is I want to talk about what's known in some fields as the signal to noise ratio. And does anybody want to share what that is, or maybe how they think it could apply in marketing and communications? You can unmute yourself and jump in.
What are you asking? Are you asking signal is what?
Signal to noise ratio.
Oh, signal to noise. Okay.
Signal to noise ratio.
Just reading your slide, I think it's just overwhelming your audience. Yeah.
It's how much what you're trying to send out, the message that you're trying to get across, versus how much noise or how much other unnecessary information, data, graphics, whatever, how much is crowding the message. So the example I like to use is when you're watching a YouTube video, raise your hand if you prefer to watch it small screen, like not blown up to full screen. Who likes to watch it like that? Okay, who likes to watch it full screen? All right, so what I thought, most people like to watch it full screen. Why? Why is that? Don't like to see those annoying recommendations on the side. A little annoyed with the pop-ups. Maybe you don't care what the top 10 tips that social media marketers don't want you to know are. It's distracting, right? It interferes. It's like watching TV with commercials. And it's kind of like it's kind of why how Facebook can become the black hole, right? Or a cesspool, right? Too much stuff going on. It's distracting, and it detracts from the message that we're trying to get across. Okay. So when you're making your graphics, this is something I actually learned when I came on to Hope Services pretty early. It's a tactic to make sure that the materials that you're producing are legible, they're easy to understand, and they get your point across. When you're making something, especially if it's something that has to have a lot of information in it, and you're not sure how it's going to look, a good suggestion is to just print it out, stick it on the wall, back up 5 or 6 feet, and see what it looks like. You don't necessarily have to be able to read every line on there, but you should be able to know what it is and get the main point of it. If it looks like a jumbled mess, it might be time to take another look at it. Also, when you do that and you're looking at it from far away, you can see design things that might not add up right. So you might see like things that are misaligned. Like if this was off center, I'd see that if I printed it out. You might see, a good friend of mine told me, always look for religious symbols in your stuff, because sometimes they can occur. Those T's can look like crosses. You can see all kinds of other things that will pop up. So you want to look for shapes, look for things that might come together and go, oh, that's not what I meant to communicate. So print it out, take a look at it, and having somebody else look at it too is also always a good idea. Fresh set of eyes will catch things that we don't. Okay, I want to show you an example of what I'm talking about with signal to noise ratio and with making sure that things are clear. So I'm going to have you take a look at a couple of posts, and I want you to tell me which one you like better, the left or the right. Okay, who likes the one on the left better? Who likes the one on the right better? Actually, you don't have to raise your hand on that one. Okay, so does anybody want to jump in and say what makes the one on the left better at getting the message across? You can just jump in and speak. I can see some hands raised, but I can't see everybody. So just unmute yourself and jump in.
The one on the left is simple.
Yep. Yep. Same. Agree here.
More direct?
My eyes just went to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So one thing that I really like about using Canva is that it helps you, it makes it easy to make use of empty space, right? Before I started really getting into presentations and what makes an effective visual aid, I would have been like, that's empty space. We got to fill it all up. That is real estate. Time is money, space is money. Let's fill that up with some pretty graphics. Let's use some of my favorite colors. Look, let's use some leaves to show that we care about the environment. These colors totally, the green and yellow and those are environmental colors, right? And blue and purple are just nice. And then we have black at the top, so it stands out, right? No. So the empty space, it draws your eyes into what is important, right? And it still conveys what we're doing. So this goes for both presentations. If you're giving a speech and you want to make a PowerPoint, and it goes for social media, and it goes for infographics and flyers that are sent out. It's the same principle for all of them: signal to noise ratio and getting the most important things across. A couple other things that are important is making sure your audience can read it. So this is really hard to read on the right. These colors don't contrast very well. And this also, where I see this happen a lot, probably even more than with just simple graphics, is with photos with text written over it. And that can be a real problem. So you got to make sure that you have contrast and that people can actually read what you're saying. Script too, as nice as it is, as pretty as it is, script can be hard to read. And there's people who don't know how to read cursive either. So that's something to keep in mind as you're designing it, making sure that it's just simple, it's big, it's bold, and everybody will be able to read it and it's accessible. One other comment I want to make about this, two other actually. When you are making, when you're making posts for social media, especially if you are planning to boost them and like do paid advertising, Facebook would reject this one on the right in 30 seconds probably. Facebook doesn't allow you to put a lot of text in your photos, and you have to put that text in the description of it that you post with the photo, because they don't do well. They have the algorithms, Kaya mentioned them. They just don't do well. And so they don't want you wasting your money. They don't want to waste their money or anybody else's time. So they won't let you post something like this if you're going to do paid advertising. And then the other thing to keep in mind is for accessibility issues. So people who are visually impaired might be using screen readers, and it's not going to be able to read that. So make it easy, make it so everybody can read it. Any questions about this? Okay. All right, next thing. So make it easy to access. Ashley mentioned some of the tools that she uses for doing communications, and press releases was one of them. And one of the most valuable lessons I learned about press releases is that nobody wants to open your Word document. No one wants to open your Google document. No one even wants to open a PDF. Although if you must, PDF is the best because it's lightweight and it preserves the format. One of the best tips I ever got was to put your press release directly into the body of an email. Just let them see it right away. Don't make them go through any extra steps. I don't like opening Word documents, and certainly people who are doing this all day, opening their email, getting tips, getting stories, they don't want to open it either. So make it easy. In the same vein, when you are sharing make sure your light doesn't go out. In the same vein, when you are sharing a flyer or something that you want people to share on social media or wherever else, make sure if you're asking them to share it on social media that they can actually just share it straight from the email. So something I see so much, especially in the nonprofit field, is there will be flyers with these great programs that are coming out, but they're an 8.5 by 11 PDF. Now, what's wrong with that? If I want to post that on Instagram, what do I have to do?
Convert it.
Yeah, I got to download it. I got to convert it. And then what happens if I just post it in the 8.5 by 11 size? What happens to the top and bottom?
Yeah, words get cut off.
Yeah, it's cut off. So yeah, make sure that you're making it easy for people to share. The fewer steps possible, the fewer steps, the better. Okay. Oops. All right. And then, yeah, so basically less is more. You got this, you can do it. I'm gonna now show you a little bit about how to use Canva, which is where I made this. And you can do this too. You can be a designer. I actually didn't really design any of this. This was a template that was already made and I just filled in my info, except I did design this beauty here. Okay. All right, so when you sign up, it's canva.com. And you can go and you can sign up for a free account. There's a paid version, but this was all made on the free version and you don't really need the paid one unless you want to start getting into maybe making logos or a little bit more advanced stuff. So the first thing that you're going to do once you log in, you get your account, you're going to go over to create a design, and it has all these pre-made formats, so pre-made sizes that you can choose from. As you can probably guess, whenever I'm making something for social media, I always just do Instagram post size because it works on every platform pretty much. Facebook, Twitter, and of course Instagram. Whereas if you make something that's like a rectangle, it might get cut off when you're putting it on Instagram. So you can see over here on the left, this is super cool. There's all these already pre-made templates that you can choose from. So it's almost Valentine's Day. Let's put that on there. Okay, and so, this is one of the new moving ones. So you can actually make videos on Canva too. Actually, let's do a more simple one for right now that's not moving. Okay, so here's an example. one. Okay, it's got these crosses over it because that's for the paid version, but there's so many different photos you can replace it with. So I'm gonna go over here. This is photos that's included with Canva. You can also upload your own. So let's replace the picture with some cupcakes. So you can do this, get rid of that one, drop it in there. And that is, it's a pre-made template and you can just put whatever you want in here. So let's say that we're gonna have let's say that our next workshop is about cupcakes. Vibrant Hawaii cupcake. Okay, when's it gonna be? Tomorrow? And eat. You could replace this. What I really like about Canva is that you can upload your own photos, graphics, images. I don't have any on here right now, but you can put a logo on here. So let's find a logo. Okay, let's say this is our logo. It'll pop up on there. You could just drag it over here. We could delete that. Delete this one, and then just pop it over there. And you can put whatever else you want in there. So if you wanted to add, let's say that you wanted to make two different graphics that are pretty similar using the same template, you can just go like this right here, duplicate page, and it's going to copy this one exactly. But we don't want it to be exactly the same. So let's say this is the theme for the series of workshops. But we want to have what's our workshop the month after going to be? Someone give me a topic that I can probably find a picture on.
Team building.
Teams, okay. Great, here's a photo of a team. Let's delete this one and let's put this nice fist bump in here. Okay, so we're gonna go through team building workshops. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Canva is it's intuitive and it's pretty easy to figure out. We want to make it big and bold like we were talking about before, make sure that everybody can read it. It's got a nice contrast, right? So the yellow, black, and white, they go pretty well together. If I were to change this background to a different color, let's say if I change it to gray, how's that? Not so good. Maybe dark blue, that works. Okay. A little bit better. Okay. So Canva's one of those things, if you play with it, if you use it, you'll get used to it, and you'll start to learn other pretty nice tips too to use it. Let's try, I'm gonna show you a couple more things and then we'll open it up to questions. Okay, so I'm adding a new page to kind of start from scratch here. We're gonna change the background to white, which is what you would see when you open up a new document on here. Let's see, let me zoom out of the way. Okay, so let's try making one from scratch. So I'm gonna go to elements. That's the first thing I wanna do. And this is something I do pretty frequently. So I wanna put a square on there. And you'll notice on Instagram and Facebook a lot, you'll see a lot of posts that have a border like this. And that's because it's a good way to make use of that empty space and to kind of draw you in. All right, let's make our border color pink. And then let's put some text in there. So I really like these ones here because it shows you some that are kind of already like pre-styled, pre-designed. I like this one. I like how that works, how that looks, free delivery. And let's change that to vibrant. Okay. And then you'll be able to change the text in the colors here. So let's say we want to make that blue, dark blue. Cool, looks nice. another cool thing you can do with effects here is you can change see how it stands out, see how that has a shadow behind it. You can make different styles here like that. And so this is how you can become your own designer. Anybody can do this. It's and there's a lot of tutorial videos out there too. So Canva, you can always go to their help and check it out, or go on YouTube if you're looking for how to do something specific and figure out how to do it. I found I was planning to learn InDesign, and then I started using this and was like, well, for the most part, I don't know if it was worth the effort to learn InDesign when we have this at our fingertips. So that's about it for me. And let me know if you have any questions.
Kristin, I'm wondering if maybe we could bring up the Hope Services Hawaii Instagram. You know, I recall that back in November, it was like National Housing Month or something. There was a campaign that was launched, you know, very crisp, interesting messaging around, you know, why we want to end homelessness, why shelter and safety is so important for many of our families. So I'm assuming you're the brainchild behind, you know, those initiatives. Can you just help us walk us through your thought process around, you know, leveraging these critical moments, right? November Housing Month, and communicating that message, and what are you gearing up towards, right? Because it's November, are you putting these messages out in the hopes that, you know, the state legislature is going to hear our plea and need for affordable housing? How are you motivating action here?
Okay, good question. So first I have to give a shout out, not to myself, but to our awesome intern, Mari. I don't think she's on today, but she's the one who has been really leveling up our Instagram game. And she gave us a class on Instagram too. So this is about back in November. November is our hashtag Hawaii Housing Month. And so this started because it's National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week that happens in November every year. And so we were like, hey, well, we need to bring attention to this, but we think it deserves a whole month. And then we're thinking more and we're like, let's make it Hawaii Housing Month instead of Hawaii Homeless Month, because one, that sounds better and it evokes hope. And two, it gets more people on board because everybody needs housing and it applies to literally everyone. Homelessness impacts all of us too, although it might not be as obvious to see it. So the goal with Hawaii Housing Month was to kind of educate people about the programs that we have and that we offer, what's being done here on Hawaii Island and throughout the state and the neighbor islands especially. And then also to dispel some of the myths. So like common myths about homelessness that we hear a lot is like, it's a bunch of people from the mainland coming because they heard you can get free stuff in Hawaii. And it's just not true. It's like, I think this year is 5% of the people experiencing homelessness on Hawaii Island came to Hawaii within the last year. And it's like well into the 70s, I think, that have been here over 20 years. Like the vast majority of people are local, longtime residents. And now it's making me do this because I'm not logged in on here. Okay, so basically we wanted to have those educational components, but then we also wanted to have a call to action. Last year we focused more on like donations. This year we're focusing more on we need to change policies because bad policy got us into this mess and good policy is what's going to get us out of it. And so right now, following politics, we just got the ball rolling on legislative session in the state. And so what we really wanted to do was we wanted to encourage people to get to know these issues so that they'd be able to take action now. Okay, that's frustrating. You can kind of see back here, these blue bordered posts. They were just some simple posts that we were making with some quick facts on homelessness and housing. Let's see, we also were showing, so we had some related posts for holidays. So we had like a Thanksgiving post. One thing that Mari has been doing is she's been taking screenshots of some of the good stories that really have to do a lot with what we're talking about or with how we got here. So here's a historical one on redlining, which was the practice of essentially government-sponsored segregation, where it's happened in the past and where it's still impacting today. And the plan for now, for as legislation session is ramping up and as we're following the bills that are going to be going on, we're going to bring it back to those things that we addressed before and say, okay, this policy here, this addresses what's happening, what we told you about in November. So as for keeping people on board, keeping it simple as possible, just like anything else that you're going to be putting out there is the best way to get people in. If they're interested, they'll hopefully read more about it. But giving a specific and clear call to action is important too. So our calls to action during November, a lot of the time it was read this article or learn more about this or educate yourself on, what's happening in our community. And sometimes it was correct people when you hear myths. And so that's a big one. If we can all do that, I think that's how we'll start to change the narrative on homelessness. And what it will be coming up, what you'll probably start seeing coming out in the next week or two is it's going to be call your legislators, write a letter, log into the state capitol website, create an account and submit your testimony. And that's a little bit more of an ask because it takes a few steps, but the hope is that people care enough, or if they're involved already, or even if they're not involved, this will be the motivation, learning about these injustices and the fact that we can do something about them, that we have hope, that next November's Hawaii Housing Month will be celebrating that every family on Hawaii Island is in housing, that's going to motivate people to take that step and take that action. So, yeah. All right, any questions?
I have a question on using Canva, and you chose the Instagram platform. Is it, can you use Canva with other platforms?
So Canva, I chose, so the way it works on Canva is that you'd actually download the photo and then you can upload it wherever you want. I think that there's a new option for sharing on social media, but I haven't tried it yet. But the reason I chose Instagram size posts, when I chose Instagram on that menu, it's just the size of the post, right? The size of the actual graphic itself. Right. And I chose that because those will fit onto other platforms. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Other questions? All right, well, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I'll put my email address in the chat. Thanks, Ashley, and I'm looking forward to hearing how Andrew is going to wrap it all up.
Thanks, Kristin. That was really wonderful. Appreciate you sharing your time with us today. Our final presenter is none other than globally renowned photographer Andrew Richard Hara. He's graced the pages of National Geographic and Hanaho. He was a dedicated force in providing daily coverage during the 2018 eruption. And so we are so grateful that this very powerful storyteller is going to be sharing some tips and tricks of the trade, and also sharing with us, how do we take a great photo to help us tell that story? So Andrew, turning it over to you. Thank you.
Too kind, Ashley, too kind. Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Andrew. If you don't know who I am, I'm a photographer that's based in Hilo, Hawaii. I was born and raised here. And after coming back from Los Angeles, I found a new passion in science and storytelling in ways that help to convey difficult messages. And I think we're all here today because we're trying to learn how to best tell our stories of life, of our organizations or our businesses. And so what I do with organizations, businesses, and individuals is to help them convey what their message is. And a lot of like what Kea was saying about identifying your audience, and also how Kristin was explaining how to convey and create strong messages in an efficient but meaningful way. I do that with photography and videography, and also just creating partnerships with people. So sometimes my photography or videos, they will connect two people together. Sometimes I just sit in a room and I just talk story and connect people without any visuals. But in the case of how we're talking about what the power of our stories are, I've always found that visual communication is one of the most powerful ways to relay your message, to explain and educate and express your passion. And in order for any message to come across in an effective way where like I gravitate towards you, is that I want to know more about who you are as a storyteller, as a business owner, or as an individual or an organization or a director. I want to know who you are other than what your business is, because then I can physically and emotionally connect with you. As a business, I think we're all trying to sell something or share something or educate. And those are really cool things. But what I've seen in my experience is as long as I know who you are, I kind of don't really care. I really just want to work with people who are passionate. You know, I've worked with Kristin, I've worked with Ashley and Kea. And the reason why I choose to work with them, and I hopefully they choose to work with me, is not because that I'm a photographer as a primary, but it's because of who I am as a person or who they are as a person. And I think as long as we can understand like who we are and the type of people we want to convey with, that'll help inform us about our audience, what our voice is inside and how we want to share that. And so with storytelling, what I've always found is like, I want to always ask myself, what is important for me if I want to devote time to Vibrant Hawaii or Hope Services, or tell a story about Hawaii Eco's CSA boxes. Like, I really want to know who the Keola Nuis are. Because if I know that, then I know how to convey their message in the right way, in the right tone. And so those visuals, and maybe sometimes they'll be really striking and like exciting, or sometimes they just need to have a little bit more softness and femininity to them. And so knowing, again, like how Keo was saying about your audience, I want to know my relationship to other people so that we can communicate on the same level, so that whatever message through photo and video I do matches how we talk to each other. Because everybody, when we talk to somebody, you know, we can come in the room yelling and screaming, but if everyone's really quiet, the message is not going to be received well. So in the same way, when I take photos, I want to make sure that I meet you at the same tone, at the same energy. And with that, I think there's a lot of humility to understand deeper emotions. And a part of the drivers of why I feel like my work does well to communicate messages is because I try to read what emotions I'm trying to feel. So with Hope Services, it could be about you know, addressing homelessness, and we can see maybe two ways to do that. We can see it in like a, oh, poor thing, or it's a, let's empower our community together. And those are very different, right? One is about pity and one is about equanimity. We're going to rise together. And that's, I feel like, what Vibrant Hawaii is doing. And so with that emotion, when you're looking at, say, you're looking at your small business and you're selling ceramics, even that you can say like, I'm here to empower the community to create physical work through art. I want to show people what your hands can do to make art. Or if you're selling a plate of food, I want to share what my local, my favorites are from my grandma who's done this for 20 years. If it's education, I want to make sure that kids are stoked on this because I'm stoked, right? I want to get kids into robotics, or I want to get like a female empowerment group to start painting, to just like express their emotions because I like art. So I try to help guide people through visuals to show how their appreciation is for things. And so with that, with the attention to educate, you know, we used to say in the advertising world, we had like 8 seconds to attract somebody's attention on a billboard. you're driving in your car, you got 8 seconds. And nowadays with Instagram, you're scrolling, you have about a second and that's it. Just 1 second. And so what that means for creating messages, just like how Kristin had shown with keeping it simple, or with Kea having Instagram posts about people, like you have no more than a second to go, ooh, what's that? And so within that second has to be really good. That poo-poo that you're gonna taste has to be the best poo-poo you've ever had. And so with that, it has to have good light. It has to be simple and easy to read. So if that's somebody's face, it has to be direct and beautiful, because we're visual animals. We're creatures of habit, and also like, ooh, what's that? And so if we're talking about a message about forestry or community or food access and resilience or sustainability, they all have to have some type of beautiful cover page, or like a cover image, or the beginning of the video should start with like a beautiful forest rather than some type of less well-lit background. So I'd like to start there with, say if you're gonna do a video of something, start it off with like a beautiful branch of an ohia tree, or something that can really easily capture your attention really fast, and then go into it. And the reason is, if you imagine you're gonna buy a car, and if the car is taken with a, let's say, and not saying that it's the best, you have to have the best, but say you have an iPhone, the first iPhone, real grainy, and then you have the new iPhone, which is shiny and the color and the light's good, and it's selling the same car, you're gonna buy the one that was shot with a better phone just because it expresses more of what this true product or this true story is. At the time when the iPhone came out, that was amazing. But now that we know a difference of quality, we know when something is HD or 4K, or whether it was taken with a Motorola Razr. And so how strong your message is ties into your technology. And one of the things that I always tell people, especially for our varied community here, is that you don't need to have this honking thing. This causes me arthritis, right? I don't need to use this all the time. But what I do like to use a lot is this, which is everything. Everybody has this, right? It's just an iPhone. I have it on a tripod. So when you shoot your video, it's something stable. You always have this with you. Even if you don't have this, then you can just set this on something or hold it. But this is the device that you'll always have with you. Photographers say the best camera you have is the one that you have with you. So utilize what you have. You don't need to have this big camera for everything. And most of the things, you want it to be casual because it's more comfortable. So something like this, where you have a tripod and you can put your phone inside and then you can record people. Awesome. That's all you really need. If you can afford it in your budget, invest into a really good cell phone with a good camera. Like the iPhone 12 is honestly amazing. And sometimes it makes me worried because it's so good. And I've worked with a lot of nonprofits in the past who they've used older technologies, older phones to tell a story. And, we'll have a side-by-side, or their kids will have a nicer iPhone. And their pictures are just better. And it made me realize that a part of how we try to communicate our stories also needs to have a technology upgrade or more recent technology. Because if we see a grainy video about a compelling story or organization, that message is going to be grainy and blurry. That's just how we see and how we interpret. If something is nice and crisp and clean, that message is going to be crisp and clean. So if you are able to afford a solid technology to record your videos and take photos, it will do you milestones, especially with what Kea had said about social media and your impact. The nicer the image, the more influence you're going to have. And I wish there was a better way or a more conscious way to say it, but it's just true. We're animals by heart. We're creatures of habit. So if the more polished or the crisper, the clarity, you're just going to have a better audience, a stronger audience, and also a stronger message for people to understand what you care in. Because I think we've all seen like a rainbow and it's taken by 50 phones, or we saw the snow on the mountain and you see 50 different ways that this mountain is captured. And when I look at other photographers and my friends that take photos, I'm like, which ones are memorable to me? And it's usually the ones that are technologically more updated. And so there's a lot of power in that. Not to say you need to invest into like $5,000 worth of equipment, but get something that's relatively, you know, I think we all know what quality is good and what's not. So just use that in consideration to your budgets, and also your abilities. And if you don't know that, there's always YouTube Academy or people like me where you can just hit up, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. But with that, I think what I'd like to do is share my screen to show you some photos that I have taken with my cell phone, to show you what I mean by that. And let's do that. Let's see. Okay, so we have some photos that I've taken in the past from my cell phone. And this one was an interview with the Hawaii Tropical Botanical Garden to video record one of their most senior staff members, 30 years. And so I'm just going to show you some photos that are directly from my phone with the iPhone, that phone app editing application where you just have exposure and color. No Photoshop, just only in the phone. And so why I chose these images is to show you different types of places, people, stories. This one's about Nishun Temple in Wood Valley. Dr. Ryan Paroy is doing drone research to combat ROD throughout the island. He got the Rapid Ohia STEM grant to combat rapid Ohia death. And so these are just different ways. And I want you to look at like the quality of the phone. This is a recent rain. So these are just my friends. I thought the flowers are beautiful. And I was like, oh, it came from the phone? And so why I'm showing you this is because don't think that the phone is not powerful enough and you need to use a DSLR. I am so impressed with our technologies today that, you know, you don't need to necessarily get anything super special to get beautiful photos of different subject matter. And some of these stories, I've actually used these photos for photo essays. This one is about, you know, the Pacific Coastal Garbage Patch that washes up all of the microplastics into our coastlines. And how these can also be used. This one's actually from, I didn't take this photo. This is from my friend Alan. And Alan called me in the middle of the night. He's like, hey, the lava's back. And we went out there and I didn't know he took this photo. And I was surprised that he could take this with his phone. And so what I'm trying to also show you here is that these photos have a certain type of emotion. They convey a place and time and space, or a message that's great. It showcases in an environment, like where are you? So when you think of typically, like if you look at my screen, you only see this torso shot of me. But say if you moved and you were the camera, you moved 10 feet away and I would be small in this room, it would be a totally different thing, right? And if I come close and we're talking, it's very different. So when you're taking photos, take your normal photo distance and then try and move further away, closer up, maybe on the side, and you're gonna get different things. Another one is light, time of day. The best time to take photos and video for your marketing or your messages is going to be at pretty much, I'd say 10 minutes after sunrise, and you have an hour there. And then it's also called golden hour in the afternoon, where you have an hour before sunset and about 15 minutes after the sun sets. And those are the times where your color is going to be really rich, really beautiful. The light is going to be really soft. I almost dropped the phone out of the helicopter on this one. But yeah, so what I would like to do with that is to talk about how we can better tell stories through technology, but also through engagement. And, you know, what I would like from everyone today is to ask yourself, like, what am I trying to achieve with my storytelling? And everyone's going to have a different reason and a different motivation, and that's great. Everyone's story should be different. If you have a similar story, look deeper. Because if it's about economic resilience, like, I want to know, like, how do I express resilience in photography? And maybe that's going to be through taking photos of kids working together in Lapa Hoi Hoi at like one of our resilience hubs. Or maybe it's going to be delivering hot plates of food in Keokaha at another resilience hub here. And so ask yourself, like, how can I communicate these things? And if you don't know what that could look like, just look at all of the things that we look at. Instagram, YouTube, watch commercial advertisements. They're all designed in a way to communicate very complex things. Even if it's a 6-pack of beer, there's a way that they're doing it. And so you can kind of understand and begin to look at things in a poetic sense and say, oh, wow, maybe I can talk about reforestation by talking about the people's love for the land and their connection with their kupuna. And so I'm talking about one thing, but we're also talking about another thing. So when you're looking and addressing your specific focuses, and to think about how we can convey them, how Kristin and Kea had explained, think about the qualities that you can have there, right? And we're gonna switch into a Q&A soon. So I'm gonna just show you one technical thing that I think would really help improve our messages. And it's just by like the quality of light. So this light is actually just from this window here that's right next to my office. So if I close this, still looks pretty good, you know, but now I have this light. And so what the quality of light can do if you just have a little bit of thing and pop is it gives it a little bit of crispness, a little bit more polish. And this light was only $50. And then this is called an LED light panel. You can buy one off of Amazon. But the difference here is, and it's very, very subtle. And then with the phone, super professional videos. And you can do this for your products, for people. Again, I'm going to turn it on and off. And it's not a lot of light. This is too much light. This is too much. But you can have a little bit of elegance here where you can get a little bit more crispness. And it doesn't take much, right? Maybe it's a little bit longer time of day, or you're using a light source here that will give you just a little bit of separation from the background. I'm a little bit more lit, so it looks a little bit more professional because there's these layers of light. Because if I turn this off again, I'm kind of on the same exposure. Yeah, so I think we can jump into the Q&A and you know, just fire away at questions. That's my favorite.
Andrew, thank you. That was so wonderful. And thank you for sharing those phenomenal photos with us. What a gift. A couple of questions that came in from the chat are, what editing apps do you suggest? And folks want to know, what kind of phone do you have?
Cool. Yeah. So I have an iPhone 12. That's the easiest question. The reason why I like this phone is because it has 3 lenses. One lens is zoomed in, the ×2. One lens is the ×1. And then the other one is the wide, and I can get like a full wide shot. So I use these different apps here, different lenses, so that I can have different views. So like when you take photos, try and use also like the ×2 or like the ×1, or if you have the newer one, you can do like an extra wide, try the extra wide. Go low, go high. It also helps. The editing apps that you can use, I've heard really good things and I've tried it. Snapseed is really good. But actually in the iPhone app itself, when you go to photos here, I know it's going to be really hard to see, but there's an edit button here. And if you click on edit, you're going to be able to have ways to change the image quality and your exposure. And I use the phone, the Photos app editing more than anything because it's so easy. So Snapseed is good. I also have Lightroom on my phone by Adobe. That's probably the best one. It could be a little bit complex if you're not used to that, but I would say start there. And also the Visco, the VSCO app is really good. And then just for videos, iMovie. It's amazing. I've actually cut a couple videos from that and I was super impressed. Let's see. Yeah, it was an iPhone 12 Pro. And the reason why the phone is so good, the newer phones are so good, and Alan is right, is because it's so good in low light. So if you don't have a lot of light and you're somewhere dimly lit, what usually happens in the phone is the computer will adjust the brightness, but because it has to adjust the brightness in darkness, it gets grainy, and we've always seen that, right? Like we're trying to do a family photo under a garage light, and then all the shadows look like oatmeal. And so the phones, as they get better, they have less of that grain and noise. So that's just something to consider. But I think overall, the easiest way is just to play around with your phone and your angles. And then look at your lighting. If you don't have money to buy one of these panels, use a light bulb, like a normal, shop light on a clamp, and then put a screen on it, or like a piece of like a white sheet. You can do that because what happens is the light will get diffused and it'll be soft. So rather than this, it'll be soft. So there's different ways you can look at. You can go on YouTube to find homebrew methods of lighting and good videography. And again, we can share my email if you have any questions, and you can email me for sure.
Andrew, I think most folks do have an iPhone, but we do have a couple folks wondering if you can recommend a good entry-level DSLR and cameras to take some video. What do you think?
I like the Canon Rebel series for like beginner DSLRs. I feel like a really good point if you can afford a Canon 6D #2. The autofocus is great. The quality is amazing. I had a 6D for like 4 years with the same lens, only one lens, and I've done work with National Geographic with it. And most people they think I'm lying, but it was just one lens for a long time and it was halfway broken. You can do a lot. And let's see, what camera would you suggest to take videos besides an iPhone? Yeah, the 6D Mark II, the Canon Rebel series. A good lens for DSLR, if you're looking for that, would be, I like wider because it tells a sense of place and space. When it's too zoomed, then you can only get so much, right? So I like to get wide and then you can always go in, but it's hard to have a narrow lens and move backwards. So a focal length that is really good place to start would be like 20mm to 35mm. And that would give you a really nice view comparable to, say, your iPhone camera angle that you see in the thing. Do you recommend that people turn off their HDR capture? I believe that capturing HDR on the new iPhones results in files that aren't actually usable or shareable. That is true. How you can get around that is, if you have an iPhone and you have a file that isn't able to share, you can always open up your iPhoto app on your computer, download your photos, and then you can click export into a JPEG. And that way, that JPEG file will be, you're able to post it, you're able to email it, upload it. So that would probably be the best format. Other things that I can think of while we have a little bit of time would be.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I'm thinking about the posts you do on social media. Incredible photos, great story. It's always like, unwrapping a little thing of Dove chocolate, right? Like, what's that little thing that's going to be there? It's such a treasure. When you're capturing these photos, where are you in kind of documenting your feelings and the reflections? Is it happening as you're taking the photo? What is that process for you like? How do you develop the content that accompanies your photographs on your posts?
Yeah. So say like my recent collaboration with Paradise Helicopters, we went to go and visit Mauna Kea Summit, and I always try, and it's really hard sometimes because there's amazing moments where you're just like, oh, I gotta take a photo. Take just 1 second to soak it in, to reflect on how you feel. And even if you're going into, and it's kind of like dating, like if you're in front of somebody, just pause for just a second inside you and just go, how am I feeling right now? Like, and if you're there to take photos, like, what do I want to get out of this? Just for a second. And I think within that second, you'll feel something, a connection with the other person. And I always try to do that to get a sense of, like, when I was over Mauna Kea and I was looking at the summit and we were going around Pu'upoliahu, and there was just one light, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. And I just closed my eyes for just a second and just to record that feeling. And then you go in and something happens when you come in, and you come into a room and you're having a bad day and you come into a room, everyone's going to feel that. But if you come into that room but pause right before the door and you go, okay, new person, fresh, and you go in, you're going to have a different feeling. You're going to have a different experience with those people. So in the same way, when you engage with somebody or you engage with your environment, I do it with the forest all the time. I talk to trees. Okay, I'm here. Let's connect. And then we'll go in, and you know what? Birds will appear where I didn't think, or the light would creep through the forest floor, or rain would come halfway through. I'm like, no, this is meant to be. And then rainbow would appear. Happens all the time. And I think one of the things that has been really inspiring is that my photos are not by accident, but a lot of what you see and what I see have not been planned. And in that sense, yeah, bring your mana'o, bring your warmth, your love, and go, here, I'm in this moment. The result visually will be very different. Anybody else?
Yeah, any other questions for Andrew? A lot of love for you out here, Andrew. Heart emojis and
thank you. Yeah, I can keep on going on forever. I like this conversation. What I'd like to close with is, oh wait, one more question came in. Any particular tips for photographing people in masks? Yeah, it's hard. One of my friends said, you can always just smile with your eyes, and that's basically all you can do. Is just to remind people, smile with your eyes. And I think that's actually changed a lot of our society now, because you don't have half your face and you have to express how you feel. So sometimes people look pissed, but they're doing this, right? So express with your eyes. I also, if it's in an outdoor situation or it's in a mutual space where I know this person and I know who they are, then I'll say, hey, if I stand back and I shoot you from afar, would it be okay to take your mask off? Because I think it's more powerful that way. I'll leave mine on. Or I'll choose a location where, like, I'm outside and they're outside. Just like yesterday, I was in Nelha, and it's hot at Nelha and Kona. And so I was like, I'm going to just shoot you guys at a further distance away so that we both can have our masks off and we feel okay. Because there's certain situations where you're going to have it off. Carrying heavy equipment, or we're hiking through the woods, it's real hard with the mask. So I try to use distance and also communication, or I'll say, hey, let's do the mask off for this portion since we're going to be closer, and then later on we can put the mask on. But whatever feels right and it's most respectful for your subject matter, I think that's the most important part. But typically, I don't like the mask. I want to see your face. I want to see your emotions, right? I only have 50% emotions I'm in here, and I don't even know if you got squinty eyes or you're actually angry, right? So try use space for that. And if you can't do that, mask up, because you want to be safe. And yeah, so thank you again. I think I'm going to turn it back over to Ashley, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Instagram or my email, which I'll type in the chat. And yeah, just fire away. I've been doing this for a long time, which means I've had a lot of failures, and I'm happy to share those, because we're just here to do it together.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew, for your time today and sharing all of these wonderful tips and stories and experiences. We appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it too. Got to do it together.
Yes, we will. Yes, we are. We're at 11:03. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. So I'll see you at 11:08, and then we will have our assignments for breakout rooms. Okay, see you in a sec. Okay, the fun stuff. Now you are going to have time and space together as a cohort. I will put you all in learning pods to reflect on all of the learning today and figure out a way forward on how you plan to apply the learning in your Resilience Hub, your Resilience Program, in your organization over the next month. So I'll put you into different learning pods. And in that time, over the next 35 minutes, we are going to ask you to do a number of things. These are going to be your peeps for the next few months. And so, get comfortable with one another, get to know each other. In the first few minutes, we want you to identify a facilitator, a timekeeper, a scribe, and a reporter. I'll go over what those roles are. The facilitator is going to read aloud the instructions that are provided on the Jamboard to make sure that everyone understands the instructions for the exercise. The facilitator will also ensure that all roles are filled. There's also scribe, timer, and reporter, and ensure that everyone is clear about what they're supposed to be doing. The facilitator will read aloud each question so everyone knows what's being asked for each round. And the goal here is really to ensure equity of voice and that everyone has a chance to speak, that people are respectful in the presence and response, and everyone understands what's happening during the breakout. The role of the scribe is to take notes on behalf of the group. And so having a sense of how to use Jamboard is helpful, but it's a pretty easy tool, super intuitive, and I'll show you how it works in just a second if you're feeling brave and want to take this on. Scribe should capture the main ideas that people present in their words, and you can say things like, did I get that right, to ensure that what you're writing is representative of what they've said. Role of a timer is to keep an eye on the number of minutes allocated for the exercise. So there'll be 35 minutes to get through a series of a few questions and think through about how many minutes each person has to share so that you get through all of the questions that are being asked on the Jamboard. If you feel that some folks are needing to move on to the next question, go ahead and speak up with Aloha to encourage folks to kind of wrap it up so you can move on. And then the reporter is the individual that has been appointed by your group to report back to the larger plenary once the breakout session has been completed. So for today's Leadership Academy breakout session number 1, identifying those roles, everyone introducing themselves and exchanging information like email addresses. This part's going to be fun. Name your learning pod, and you can do that here. Just go ahead and click on the sticky, and in place of the asterisk, go ahead and type your team name. Hit save, and there you go. We also want your group to commit to connecting with each other over the next few weeks. So between now and the second Thursday of March, find a time to connect one day for an hour. We are going to be sending you a number of prompts to consider, but we want you to hold space around what it was like to implement what you've learned today. We want you to take what you've learned and put it into practice. Share your challenges, share your moments, and celebrate as a group how you are taking this information and putting it to work for your program in your community. So identify when you are connecting there. And if you need assistance setting up a Zoom room, do let us know and we can help set that up for you. 3 questions that we want you to reflect on today based on the presentations that were made. The first is, in what ways will you leverage social media to engage your audiences and educate about your effort? You can go ahead and on the left-hand side, there is a sticky note for the scribes to go ahead and type in that response. Hit save, and then go ahead and drag it into the appropriate bucket. Next question is, what are 2 to 3 things that you will do to motivate your community to take action? So think about some of the things that Kristin shared during her presentation. What really moved you and what are some ways in which you feel moved to motivate your community to do things to support your Resilience Hub or program or your organization. And finally, in reflecting on Andrew's presentation, one of the questions he asked, which was really great, was what are you trying to achieve with your storytelling? Think deeply about that and jot some ideas down here, and also include some ways in which you think you can tell that story through photographs. So if you have ideas of, is it all hunted together, gardening? Is it, a bunch of keiki that are at a hub, working on a 3D printer and looking really pensive and really deep in thought around, what they're trying to do, think through that story and some visual components that would really make it compelling. So I'll go ahead and drop into the chat box a link to this Jamboard so everyone has it. And when we assign you to breakout rooms, you're going to have a pod number that is the name of your breakout room. And so when you get the Jamboard, go ahead and scroll through till you get to the Jamboard that says the learning pod number that corresponds to the name of your breakout room. I hope that makes sense to everyone. Any questions? No. Okay, great. Now I'm going to send you all out into breakout rooms. One second. Okay, have fun. See you in about 35 minutes. Hi, Shelby. I thought I assigned you to a room.
I'm having connection issues.
Oh, no wonder you keep
Can
getting.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. I can now.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. So frustrating.
Okay, I think we're all back. Awesome. Was that fun? Let me see some reactions. Great. Okay. I'm going to just go in order and call on the presenter for Learning Pod number 1. Let us know what your name is and high-level overview of some of the responses that came into each of the questions.
Hi, I'm Martha Rodilles with the Island of Hawaii YMCA. And we started off with 4 members and 1 person got cut off. So the 3 of us just plowed ahead and got going. The name of our team is Rainbow Connection. And we came to that name because we found out that the people in our pod are located from Hilo to Hamakua to Waimea to North Kohala. So we kind of wanted to just capture a name that included everybody. And that's how we came up with Rainbow Connection. We're going to be meeting on the 4th Tuesday of each month, starting on February 23rd at 10 a.m. And I'll be sending out a Google Meet to my partners. The first question that we had was, in what ways will you leverage social media to engage audiences and educate about your effort? And we're going to be working towards Facebook and Instagram. Some of our users is not that versed, so they're going to be working out the bugs, while others have been using it and will just be enhancing what we learned today. Another thing that we talked about was learning, practicing, and passing on to others who have access to our social media accounts on doing a better post to get better responses based upon the tips and tricks that were shared today. Couple of our members already use Canva, so that was just reassuring that that is one of the better tools to use. I actually came from the county. I've been there for 36 years and this is my fun job now. And while I was with the county, I was doing, I attended a government for social media conference, which was in Texas and in Nashville, Tennessee. And Canva was one of the highly recommended platforms to use for posting social media. So what I heard today just reassured me that, you know, that is the way to go. And I would strongly recommend you use it. It's really easy and very intuitive to use. Our second question was, what are 2 to 3 things that you will do to motivate your community to take action? And we shared that it's important to be present and to share stories of real life, to build relationships by using videos, photos to collaborate, bringing people together. And our last one is, what are you trying to achieve with your storytelling? We want to get the viewers' attention. We want to motivate them by using visuals such as photos and videos. And like as Andrew said, you only have 1 second. So that 1 second is like so important. So we're gonna be embracing that. And thank you so much to all of the presenters today. It was really confirming and awesome. And I'm just so happy to be a part of this. Thank you from the Rainbow Connection.
Thank you, Rainbow Connection. That was great. Learning pod number 2. Who are you?
We are Learning Pod 2, Shelby, Ken, and Lopaka, but I think Lopaka just had to step out. We are the EOS, and we wanted to achieve storytelling that promotes idea cohesiveness, meaning like we have a solution and maybe this idea will be able to help your spaces. We also wanted the story of our missing and exploited children to be explained, shared. We wanted to report on articles and news that pertain to our keiki and their well-being. And we also want to report about community cohesiveness, like coming together, knowing you are part of this community. So those are our what we're trying to achieve with our storytelling. Actions, we want to share inspiring stories. We want people to know how to take action, and we are going to utilize different types of information dissemination, from social to snail mail to mailing lists to phone trees. So we discussed a wide variety of ways to reach our community. And in what ways are we going to leverage social media? It's to inspire, share stories, share pertinent information, and then promote our community. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you, Team EOS. Wonderful. Learning pod number 3.
Anyone else going? This is Patty. I was hoping someone else. We actually didn't choose a recorder or a reporter.
Okay. Pod 3, Patty, Summer, Kavehi, and Kaimi.
Kavehi, do you want to? Thank you, Kavehi.
We decided to call our hui a'ali'i because it's a plant that grows in all the different regions that we live. And after we were talking story, we realized that 3 out of the 4 of us don't actually utilize social media yet in our efforts. So just trying to create more of a presence on those social media platforms is definitely a goal. And then also we talked about newsletters and how important that is to getting the word out. 2 to 3 things that we're doing to motivate the community to take action. Some are mentioned, monthly newsletters. For Pohaha Ikalani, our goal would just be to post more on social media. Another, I guess, moving on to the last block, what are you trying to achieve with your storytelling? So one of the visions that we had, because our work is really tied to food and having a relationship with food and community. So maybe a vision of families working the land is what we saw. Images of new growth as well. And then as for the food deliveries, just kind of maybe showcasing different businesses that we're working with and just that connection to community. And that's all we have.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Kavehi. Learning pod number 4, Farah, Gabrielle, and Ross.
Hi everybody. I love being the reporter, in every group that I'm in. Okay, we called ourselves Bounce Back Hawaii because we didn't know what to think of, but we can think of, we're trying to bounce back from COVID and everything else that's been going on in all of our lives. So we plan on meeting on Fridays at 8:30, not counting tomorrow because we already had our first meeting this morning. And so the first block, how will we leverage social media? Being able to establish our personal accounts and using it to promote. On a side note, as for me, I have to be careful because I work for an organization and I have to go through them first before posting things. But the idea is to be able to use our personal platforms and be able to share so that we're personally connected to a lot of people on our own. So now a lot of people see our things, they'll start talking stories and start asking questions about, hey, what are you guys doing? So that's sort of one of the things we were talking, posting more human interactions, like what we're learning this morning. I know that I can probably do a lot more of that with posting more human interactions and things on similar to those things. The second block versus what are two or three things you want to motivate. On my end, I've been encouraging the parents that are utilizing the Resilience Hub here to be able to share their strength and their story. So for instance, a family is good at hunting. Well, I want you to come in and share your story about hunting and being able to ask them, I know you have different strengths that you're strong at and that I know that you can share. It's more like a talk story thing. So being able to utilize the parents and guardians at the Resilience Hub. Other ways is, one of the biggest things that we're trying to utilize is working with community partners and asking them, how can we restart sports in Kohala? We want to restart sports and getting everybody to work together to say, we can do this together. If we can show that we can do this together, let's start it. But that's one specific way of we want to start things in Kohala specifically because parents are asking about, is there sports? We want sports. How can we get sports going again? Because of the social interaction. Reaching out to different community members, volunteers and their strengths, like how we have Ken from 3D printing, and then we have Honeybee Education, asking all those community partners to come in and share their knowledge and helping us to be able to share that knowledge with other people. As far as the last block, what are you trying to achieve? I think with Farah and Ms. Love, we can all agree is that we want to show how if we all work together, we can succeed together and be resilient together. And that we need to make those connections and build those relationships. And with everybody working together, that's how we'll all be successful. So that's the story that we kind of want to share. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Ross, and Bounce Back Hawaii. Learning pod number 5, Angie, Kai, Justine, and Shelby.
Aloha, everybody. We named our pod Hala after the hala tree. Basically, because the leaves by themselves are by themselves, but when they're together, they can be woven to make something special, somewhere where we can all meet, be together, which is what a lot of our answers are kind of based on. Which ways we will try to leverage social media. We also all kind of agree that we don't use it enough, and that actually sticking to it would be a good thing to use it, but also to to use snail mail and newsletters, email newsletters to reach out to the older generation who may not be identifying with social media. And also to get on it more to connect with our community as well as the larger global community so that they can also see what's going on here. And to do research on our own end when, say, posting at what time is best with our specific communities that each one of us are trying to reach. There is always a best time to reach your target audience, and we kind of need to figure that out on your own. Also sending out flyers with questions geared towards the youth, but asking questions of the parents about our youth and the youth themselves and how we can better serve them in our efforts. The 2 or 3 things to motivate our community to take action is through education, through community outreach, increase action by example, lead by example. Community service is big in building pride in your community and in yourself. The donation of time is often overlooked, but it can be crucial and really big in helping to build that feeling. And again, through snail mail and newsletters to basically get more word out. What we're trying to achieve with the storytelling, our group is made up of educators and people who work with children and people who work with older people and people like myself who just try to help the community through what I do, which is art. And what we're trying to reach, what we kind of all generally agreed on is the healing of our nation and our people, and fulfillment, being happy, trying to, if that means, growing your own food so you have time to concentrate on building family and these things, living harmoniously with nature and building trust within the community again. Those are kind of the visual ideas we have. And we are still working on the dates and time to connect. People need to check their schedules.
Thank you, Kai and Team Hala, for that update. Wonderful. Final learning pod number 6. Michelle, Mila, and Susie.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Michelle with Going Home Hawaii, and Mila is with UH Hilo, and Susie is with a charter school. Susie, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the full name of your school. There we go. Thank you, Susie. And it took us a little while to figure out the technology, but we did it together. And as a result, our pod name is LGS IMUA, LGS for Learn, Grow, Share, and IMUA for Moving Forward. So we're looking forward to this being an opportunity for us to really grow and expand in how we can use these tools to engage our audience. Different ways that we brainstormed to leverage social media to engage audiences and educate about our effort include developing campaigns to target audiences, join other campaigns and promote through our channels to emphasize our collaboration, establish a Canva account, and training staff and volunteers to learn how to take photos of vulnerable populations. 2 to 3 things that we discussed to motivate our community to take action. Meeting with staff to encourage social media posting of their work with humans. Post news articles related to what we do to educate and where possible, encourage action. Collaborate with stakeholders and staff. Network with staff and volunteers to find compelling impact stories that we can share. And finally, what are you trying to achieve with your storytelling? We want to change perceptions about the people we serve, highlight benefits to volunteers of serving as mentors, and address any concerns they might have, inform the public about the great opportunities for Hawaiian-focused, place-based education at Kua'okala Charter School, and highlight student achievements of our campus and community. So we're planning to meet on March 3rd, but we think we might want to have another meeting perhaps before that to get to know each other better. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, LGS, Learn, Grow, Share, IMUA, for sharing and connecting. I did get a couple of messages in the chat about, what is the purpose of us coming together as learning pods? We hope that you're committing to this 4-part series with Vibrant Hawaii and participating in all 4 workshops with the Resilience Academy. We see this as an investment in community, in building up your capacities and abilities to serve. And so we'll be meeting every second Thursday of the month to provide information in this way. And then it's going to be up to you over the next month to meet as a learning pod to discuss and apply that learning and share your experiences. So we hope you are able to commit to that. I know our executive director, Jani Keta, has her hand raised, so I do want to turn it over to her before we wrap up.
Thanks, Ash. I just wanted to encourage everyone. I heard a lot. So as a leadership coach, I heard a lot of the words more. We want to post more. We want to post more of this. I would encourage you to think about refining that with an actual number and a date. So it might look like, before I meet with my pod again on this date, I would like to increase my posts from once a week to twice a week. Or before the next time we meet as a group in March, I want to ensure that I have posted 3 stories about areas that I said I would prioritize. So just think about pushing yourself to that and being held and being accountable to your pod to reach those goals.
That's great, Jen. Thank you. So we'll send a follow-up email with a link to today's recording. Do connect and let us know when your pods are meeting. We plan to be growing your pods with a few more folks that weren't able to make it today, but do want to be part of this, growing and learning collaborative network. In the chat box, go ahead and let us know how you're feeling after today's series at One Word Checkout. I've also dropped in a link to an evaluation form for today's series. Do let us know honestly how you think it all went, where we could improve, and what sort of tools you were interested in being provided to you so that you could deepen your work in this space in community. That said, great to see all of you, and we will see you in about a month. Take care.
Mahalo.